This video might completely change your retirement. Did you know you could collect Canadian pension and live abroad? What is this crazy news? What am I talking about? This is too good to be true. That's probably what you're thinking right now. So let's just dive right into it. In this video, we're going to talk about the different pensions from CPP, OAS, GIS, how that can change. What does it mean to be able to live abroad and collect this pension? So we're going to start off with the old age security. So living or returning to Canada. So your old age security and GIS may stop if you're away for more than 6 months and don't qualify for receiving your payments while outside of Canada. So what does this mean? That means there's an exemption to that rule. Generally, if you don't meet that exemption, it will stop and you won't be able to retire abroad. So if that happens, you got to call, let them know so that you don't, or when you return to Canada, call them and let them know to restart your payment. How do you become eligible? So receiving your payments while living outside of Canada. You can receive OAS payments while living abroad if you lived in Canada for at least 20 years after turning 18. So if you lived at least 20 years after turning 18, you are eligible to collect old age security while living outside of Canada. Or you lived and worked in another country with social security agreement with Canada, combined in both countries as at least 20 years. Okay, we're not going to look at that. We want to be simple. Did you live at least 20 years after turning 18 in Canada? So not from 0 to 18, everything after 18, at least 20 years. Yes, okay, you can claim OAS while living outside. Now, if you still don't believe me, the CRA, even on their website, has an example. Thomas, 65, lived in Austria for much of his life. He lived in Canada for 16 years after the age of 18. This year, he moved back to Austria to be near his aging parents. Normally 20 years of residency is needed to receive an OAS pension outside of Canada, so Thomas would normally not have qualified. However, the social security agreement with Austria allows him to count the time he lived in Austria after 18 towards meeting the 20-year residence in Canada requirement. Thomas will receive a partial OAS pension outside of Canada for the rest of his life. All right. So now we can even get into the fact that there are also some agreements within other countries that allow partial OAS pension payments from Canada. But if you live 20 years in Canada, then you will receive all of it and you won't have that partial one. I know this is crazy. This is something you haven't heard of probably, but let's dive now into CPP. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, do you qualify for CPP, i.e., have you been making payments into CPP? So CPP is actually not based on residency at all. It's all about what you've paid into it. You've paid into it, so you are, in theory, entitled to it, right? It's your money. You've paid into CPP. You've lived in Canada. You worked in Canada. So it doesn't matter about where you live. Now, you can see here about the payment amounts. They have a maximum CPP of $1,507 at 65. Here you have $803.76 as the average CPP retirement. So we're going to use that average number. So that 803.76 for 2026 times that by 12, we get 9,645 is that yearly amount. Okay, now we have to look at, do we qualify? Do we want to be, you have to be at least 65 years of age, have made one valid contribution, etc., etc., etc. Now, how you actually calculate this is pretty much based off of how much you've been contributing. So the more you contribute, the longer you've worked, the higher your CPP will be. We're going to keep this in mind that we have this average amount. But why don't we calculate now exactly? Well, before we do that, look at your estimate as well. Use your quick estimate online for a quick estimate of your CPP pension amount. You can go into My Service Canada, statement of contributions, all this other stuff here, so you can take a look at how to calculate it. Another detail, we're coming up to the tax filing date. If you're planning on using or filing your tax return online yourself, I recommend using Wealthsimple Tax. That is the most user-friendly one. Click the link in the description. You get $25 if you fund your account. It only requires $100 in investments, and you'll get $25 after that. You can also take it back as well. You don't need to have it open all the time. You can just withdraw that amount. That's a 25% return. That's your money. So it's really great that you have this option as well. Now, what I wanted to say here was calculating your old age security. So we're going to go in and calculate that. So what we're going to look here is we're going to look at step one, single, divorce, All right, so single. We're going to do 65 years of age. We haven't received old age security yet. We'll switch this 10,000 to the correct 9,645 amount. 9,645 amount. We're going to say we don't have any self-employment income. Where do you live? Okay, we live outside of Canada. How long have you lived in Canada? We're going to say 40 years. This obviously changes, right? So if you lived your entire life in Canada and you've turned 65, you know, you can put 50 or whatever, but we'll just do 40. Now we estimate our benefits. We get this old age security of $742.31. So what is $742.31 times that by 12? That's 8,900 plus that 9,465. We're looking at a amount of 18,000. Let me just take a look at this amount again. 803.73 times 12. Okay, so it's about 9,600. So 9,600, 740. So this is 742.31 times 12 plus 9,600. So about 18,500. Okay, that's about your Canadian amount. If we look at that, let's say you wanted to live in Europe or something, about 11,567 euros a year. Divide that by 12 a month, 963 euros a month. I mean, depending on where you live, like this can be higher than some average payments in Europe. You know what I mean? If you go also in any of let's say South America or Asia, I think like this is definitely a good retirement, outside of Canada. In Canada it might be difficult to retire with that amount, but outside of Canada, depending where you are, 960 euros a month that's a good amount. Going back down here, you can see though you're not eligible because you need to live in Canada to receive the guaranteed income supplement. Okay, but you are eligible for your old age security, and again, you will be eligible for your CPP depending on how much you earned. So that 18,500 that we calculated, that's just an estimate. Of course, don't take that as a literal amount. These are just estimates. We're just trying to figure out how much you could retire, how much you would make by living abroad. I don't know. I think that this is something that most people don't know. I hear a lot of people say you have to live in Canada for at least 6 months of the year for you to be able to receive this amount. No. Again, you have to take a look and see what are the healthcare rules in Canada, how much you have to live in Canada to receive healthcare in Canada. But again, a lot of places outside of Canada have private ones, private healthcare, where you can also pay to receive that service as well. So, of course, this all depends on what you want out of your retirement. But the whole point is to use this information to know that you can do that. That's where the power comes, right? You don't have to live in Canada. If you don't want to, you can if you do. But your retirement is up to you, and it's all about what you want to do with your life, how you want to live it. You've worked and you've done your part, so now you get to enjoy. If this video helped, subscribe to the channel. Let this channel continue to grow, with more cool tax information such as this one and more concise Canadian tax guidance videos as well. Remember, this is general tax information, not personalized tax advice.